Well, I think it's a slight difference in polling. I think at the end of the day, anybody watching the race knew that the popular vote would probably be won by the Harris campaign, with California leading the way for that. But I think what we need to do is, where can we focus down on any of these polling numbers on the key states such as Michigan and Pennsylvania, and get a read on where those states are going, because as everybody knows, at the end of the day, it's not the number of votes that you get, but it's the electoral votes that a campaign brings in for the
Yes.
presidential race that's going to decide who won and who doesn't.
Yes. Well, since you brought up Michigan, Michigan has historically, for a while now, been blue, but now it's sort of like a swing state, sort of a swing state now, and it's up for grabs. So Trump rallies have increasingly attempted to appeal to the Arab Americans and Muslim voters in Michigan. Do you believe this approach can sway undecided voters and make some sort of significant difference in states like Michigan and North Carolina?
Well, they can. I believe they can. And both campaigns have been focusing on Michigan and Pennsylvania with larger Jewish and Arab American voters, and speaking to them on particular issues. And we can look at the Harris campaign. Their efforts there have been similar on some phases to the Trump
Yes.
campaign, which is supporting of the Israel. Both campaigns have made that position. But at the same time, the difference in with the Harris campaign is they focused a lot more towards Arab Americans in supporting humanitarian aid and finding a solution to the ongoing issue that's a
Yes.
two-state solution.
So
The
do you think
difference there,
yes? But I mean, do you think
I
that
was going
like
to
the
say the
reason?
difference between,
Yes, I'm sorry.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
It's just that like you were talking about like how the Arab Americans are swaying more towards Trump due to his ideas of humanitarian aid and the two-state solution. But do you think that also the Arab Americans or the Muslim community in the United States are slightly going towards Trump because of foreign policy when it comes to the Biden administration, not just talking points from both candidates?
Well, I think you need to look at where both candidates have been, and like I said, they both come down strictly in support of Israel. As I said, the difference would be between the Trump and the Harris campaign is the Harris are more in support of finding a two-state solution, while uh, what the Trump campaign has been pointing to is their success in their previous administration with things such as the Abrams Accords, and bringing more of a diplomatic Arab nation solution to finding a solution to the ongoing war in Gaza. I think when we look at Michigan and in Pennsylvania and a few of the other swing states where we have an impact on the Jewish and Arab communities, um, the Middle East tensions create a nuanced battlefield there in those swing states where in the past you might have had just both campaigns saying, we're strictly behind Israel. Now they both have to find that nuanced approach that speaks to more of a micro voting group, such as the Arab Americans, instead of something more general in approach, such as we're a staunch ally of Israel.
Issues. Sir, when it comes to the economic issues, now let's talk about like inside the United States. They remain a priority for 45% of the voters, with Trump leading Harris in this area. Does this economic edge give Trump the upper hand, especially in states where manufacturing and job growth are a key concern?
I believe it does, and I think it plays a little bit better hand in hand with the other issues that favor a Trump campaign, which are immigration. I think both those issues are strongly backing the Trump campaign and his election. And I think those are the top issues, I think, for most Americans. When you were talking about immigration, Trump has a double-digit lead when it comes to that issue. And on the economy, I think he's also maintained a lead there with his strong support for American jobs and American manufacturing, and making sure that foreign materials and manufacturing do not get a favorable position over Americans.
Okay, so in many recent surveys, there are suggestions that voters expect Trump to win despite the tight race. How do you think this perception impacts the dynamics of the campaign, and could it influence voters' turnout in Trump's favor or against it? I mean, if people feel like Trump's secure, they may not go out to vote.
Well, I think we've seen, over the last 8 years now, that the strong supporters for former President Trump, the MAGA supporters, aren't swayed by that. They will show up. They will turn out to vote. In fact, I think they've been driven to such a point where they're showing up to vote that they're actually showing up to vote early in the pre-election, absentee ballots and early voting, which for years they had said was the reason that former President Trump lost the 2020 elections. But now we're seeing them returning to that in an enthusiastic aspect of making sure that they do get out to vote either before or on election day. And we're seeing a lot more of them turn out to vote in pre-election voting, early election.
Yeah, okay. Well, what about the idea that, there's 9 days left and there's campaigning obviously that's going to happen within the 9 days. But what do you think Trump's most effective strategy should be to clench the crucial states and win the elections?
Well, I think, appearing in some more of the swing states would be key. Of course, I'm not privy to what the campaign has planned. They have a big rally in Madison Square Garden that's going to be coming up. And I think it'll be geared towards speaking to those people in those swing states. But I think, primarily, I would probably advise to keep up the appearances, keep talking about immigration, keep talking about strengthening the American economy and showing that the Harris campaign and the Biden administration have not done that for Americans and have left middle Americans and lower income Americans in a spot that is untenable for them in the future, and that he won't do that. And quite frankly, avoid any misspoken words. And that can sometimes be a problem with the Trump campaign, as they have always said, you have to let Trump be Trump. But in these last weeks, last 10 days, I would probably keep him a little bit longer under wraps and just let him do this big rally and some last minute tours of the swing states.
If we could talk, I mean, you spoke about internal issues, including the economy and, healthcare or whatever it is that, Trump is addressing the American citizen. But do you think that foreign policy also somehow plays a role in, either, persuading the voter to, vote Trump for when it comes to issues like Ukraine, Gaza, or the international issues in general?
Well, I think when we're talking about the people that support Trump, we're now talking about not a particular issue when it comes to foreign affairs. I think we're talking about which can be, kind of distilled down to America first. And I think when they look at these type of things, of course, they're strong supporters of sending military aid to Israel against the Iranian-backed groups there. They are less enthusiastic, and in fact, probably on the other side of that, of sending foreign aid to Ukraine, and because they can see that as possibly evolving into more of a NATO issue, which then would require, kind of boots on the ground from the United States. And they want to avoid that. They want to avoid most MAGA supporters on the America First, look after ourselves first, and then, and stay out of any foreign entanglements.
Yeah.
So I believe that when overall the foreign issues that issues that are
Yes.
discussed are covered by that MAGA level.